Welcome to Drishti's Part 2 of Webinar Series. Thank you once again for such a wonderful response that we've received yet again. I am Rabmeet Kaur and I am joined by my colleague Ms. Pooja Dwivedi. Both of us will be moderating the session today. Later on, we will be joined by our chief panelist, Dr. Vikas Divyakirti. Sir is not only the MD of Drishti IAS, but also an ex-civil servant and a renowned educationist. On to Pooja.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the introduction and a very pleasant good evening to all the participants. As we all have gathered here, the theme for today's webinar is how to choose the optional subject for your main civil services examination. Like the last time, this time as well, we have received questions in thousands. And that is why we had to select few questions which are relevant for today's topic. And for those very specific topics, for those very specific questions, the few number of students will get a chance to ask those questions directly from sir. And the questions which will not be taken up today, you can visit the Drishti IAS YouTube English channel and watch the very first webinar there. And now I would like to welcome Dr. Vikas Divyakirti, sir. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Ragmit.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. So, should we start the webinar?
Yes, sir.
And what is the methodology? You will be asking questions from me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. So you will start with asking questions, and later on we will be inviting some participants to ask the questions directly.
Perfect.
Pooja, please start.
Yes. So the very first and basic question that comes to any student's mind is how to select the correct optional subject and what is the criticality of it in clearing this exam.
So today we are specifically talking about the optional subjects, right?
Right.
Okay. So why is the perfect choice of optional subject important? This is the first question. And I will answer you in 2 to 3 points, actually. First of all, you have to understand this. This is the only thing you have to choose in this examination. You have a given syllabus for the prelims, which is same for all. You have the GS mains and essay and qualifying papers. They are similar for all, and you are no one to choose any subject there. Optional subject is the only thing in this whole examination where you have to make a choice. And the most difficult thing in the life is to make the choices. And because they decide your career, they decide your life afterwards. This is one point. Secondly, this choice could not be very important in some other cases, but in the case of UPSC option, this becomes very important. I tell you how. I have seen some people who say that the optional subject is only of 500 marks, whereas GS is of 1000 marks, essay is for 250 marks, interview is 275 marks. So GS is more important and optional is not that important. So we can take any optional subject and that doesn't make any difference. Let me tell you that when you are entering into a competitive exam, it doesn't matter that what is the total score of a paper. I mean, GS is 1000 marks, that is fine. But this is a vague statement. I mean, this seems to be a clear statement, but effectively this is a meaningless statement. This is a vague statement. How? In a competitive exam, what matters is how less or how more marks you have got in comparison to your competitors, in comparison to others. It doesn't make any sense how many marks have you achieved. The people who achieve 90% marks in their graduation and 95, 98, 99% marks in their plus 2 and 10th, they don't even get 50% marks in this examination. And if you are able to score around 53% marks, you become an IAS officer. If you score around 58, 60% marks, you become the IAS topper. So percentage of marks and what are the absolute marks, that doesn't make any sense in this exam. What makes sense is the difference of marks in your case and in the case of your competitors. And now let me come to the point on this premise. In GS, although it is of 1000 marks, but you will almost every year, I'm not talking about a specific year because the marking pattern changes to some extent every year. So I'm taking an average for last 2-3 years. In GS, you will find that the topper of IAS, I'm not talking about the topper of IAS, I'm talking about the topper of GS in IAS in any year. You will generally find that the topper of GS in IAS in English medium gets around 500 marks, 475 to 525. That is the general range for the toppers. That is 50% of the GS marks. And when it comes to the topper of optional subject, it is around 350, 360, 370 out of 500. That is more than 70% marks. So even if the optional subject is of 500 marks, the approach, the possibility of achieving higher marks in the optional subject is much, much better than the GS. Thirdly, in GS, if there are two very good students, very good candidates, I'm sure if they have studied well, if they have written well, if they have completed their papers in the mains, I'm sure the difference between their marks will not be more than 10 or 15 marks. That is the maximum difference that can happen. Maybe one will have 500 marks, second will have 490, 495, 510 marks. This is the difference. If the level is same. If both of them are also having the same optional subject and the same capabilities, they will also score almost similar marks in the optional subject. But if they have different subjects, then their potential will not make much difference. The potential of the the potential of the optional subject in itself will also make a lot of difference. I have seen many people in last 20-22 years who could be IAS toppers, but who finally became the failures because of the wrong choice in the optional subject. Even nowadays, you can just check your friends and those who are preparing around you in your neighborhood. You'll find that some people who are otherwise very good in essay and GS and other papers, maybe interview as well, they score only 240, 250, 260, 270 marks in the optional. And this is a very normal score in optionals. Whereas some other people are scoring 330, 350, 360 marks in the optional. So the real thing is, for two serious candidates, the difference of marks in GS will generally not be more than 10 or 15 marks. Whereas if their subjects are different, the difference of the marks in their optional subject can be up to 50, 60, 70, 30, 40 marks. And that is why the difference of optional subjects does make more difference than the marks in the GS. This is what I generally believe and generally tell to the students. So, Ravneet and Pooja, my take on this question is the optional subject can make your career, it can destroy your career. A good choice can make it very easy for you to get into civil services, because you have to remember that in the final result, if we leave the top 10 candidates, maybe up to 10 rank, if we leave, maybe let us take from the rank 100, the marks of the person who has got 100th rank and the marks of the person who gets 200th rank, the difference between these two is of 10 marks only. So on an average, on 1 mark, there are 10 ranks in the toppers. I mean, leaving aside the first 10, 20 toppers, I'm talking after that. And when we see the bottom line in the last ranks, maybe the rank number 900, 910, on 1 mark, you may find even 20 candidates on the same mark. At that time, you understand that losing 1 mark because of a bad decision has put you 20 ranks down, maybe out of the list. And if you have chosen a subject in which you have scored 10 or 15 or 20 lesser marks, then the other subject in which you could have scored more 25 or 20 or 15 marks, it means you have lost 200 or 300 ranks just by a mistake of making wrong choice. So this is my take on this question. I think this should suffice.
Yes, sir. So moving on our next question, which is obviously the most popular question, close to 100 students ask this, which is that what should be the criteria of deciding an optional subject, and whether certain criteria should be given more weightage while making the final choice.
We are talking specific to English medium, right? Today.
Yeah.
Okay. See, when you have to choose an optional subject, I generally give it in a simile form that it is just like choosing a spouse for you. You have made a list of several characteristics that I want to see this and this characteristic in my future or would-be wife or husband. She should be beautiful, she should be this and that, and she should be earning, she should be intelligent, she should have done this degree and that degree, and a lot. Or he should be handsome, he should be smart, he should be respecting my parents, he should be liberal, and a lot of things. And in this world, you will never find a suitable partner for you, who satisfies all the criteria you have put for the selection of a spouse for you. In the same manner, we have around 7 or 8 criteria for the selection of the optional subject, but probably you will never find a subject which suits you on all the parameters. So when there comes a question of that all the parameters are not being suited to any of the candidates or choices, then you have to also understand that if all the parameters are not being satisfied, which are the more important parameters which should be satisfied while I have to make a choice. For an example, let us make it humorous as well as let us relate it to the life. If you have to choose between 2 persons for your future husband or wife, and there are 2 criteria only, let us assume there are 2 criteria only. One is he or she is very successful, very talented, very good earning, and everything what you generally believe in, and beautiful or handsome, whatever the case. And the second criteria is he or she is not faithful or committed for you. And the chances are very less that he or she will be committed for you. Now, in such a situation, if you have to choose between 2 people, one who will be committed with you, but who is not very good in other parameters, like in beauty, or is not very handsome, his income is a little lesser than the other choice. In the other case, income is higher, smartness and beauty, that is also higher on higher side. Everything, social respect, everything is on higher side, but the commitment and faith towards you is on a very low side, and that is probably going to be missing. Now you can understand that when you have many parameters, then you have to make the choice between the parameters in the first case. And if you have chosen the right parameters in the right hierarchy or the right order, then your choices will be right. So when I'll discuss 3, 4, or 6 parameters for the subject, you have also to understand what should be the hierarchy of these parameters while choosing the subject. Now, you all know, I have talked to thousands of students for last many years, and generally all of them do come with these parameters in their mind. So I'm not going to tell any new parameter. One parameter is the scoreability, how scoring is a subject. Now, the biggest lie in the field of UPSC is that all the subjects are equally scored. This is the biggest lie. This is not true. I'm not saying that UPSC is conspirating or it is making a conspiracy against some subjects. I'm not saying that. In such a complex system, UPSC is having a very complex system. Earlier, they used to have 2 optional subjects that was even complex a system. Now they have 1 subject, but still it's a very complex system. You have almost 25 to 30 optional subjects. In every subject, you have to test a lot of students. From the setting of question paper to the marking and to the moderation, it is almost impossible for any institution to set a perfect objectivity level. There can be not a perfect objectivity. UPSC doesn't even believe in the system of scaling, which some PCS exams do believe. Some state PCS believe in the scaling. UPSC doesn't believe in the scaling of options. It believes only in the moderation process, which is far, far lesser than scaling. Let me explain you in 2-3 sentences. When we talk about scaling, what we do is, suppose in one subject, the topper has got 400 marks, and the least marks scored by someone are maybe 100 marks, and the average score maybe is 250 marks. Now we have 3 parameters. We can take the parameters in a subject. We can also take the parameters on the basis of the examiners. In one subject, there are 5 examiners, let us assume, and the maximum mark given by an examiner are way different, way far more or less than another examiner in the same subject. So there should be a statistical system which can equate the marks given by different examiners in one subject. And there should be another scaling process on the next level which can equate the marks given in the different subjects. For this, we have to take a presumption that the best candidate in mathematics and the best candidate in anthropology or sociology are at the similar level. And if we have this presumption, if we presume that they are at the similar level, we can make all the candidates of all the subjects on the equal footing. But somehow UPSC has never taken this premise to be correct, and they have never taken the scaling process seriously. They just talk about moderation, and moderation is, they see that if an examiner has given extra marks, the chief examiner will reduce some marks on the basis of his or her understanding from the copies of the evaluated by that examiner. This is the moderation process based on a lot of subjectivity, but yes, UPSC does this to some extent. And that is why you will always see that in UPSC every year, some subjects do have a shine and some subjects do have a lot of failures. You know everything. I can give you a lot of examples. 10 years back, psychology used to be the option subject for UPSC. If there would be 700 selections, I believe at least 300 to 350 would be from psychology. It was such a successful subject. In 2006 or 5, public administration used to be the option subject. Everyone was behind public administration. In 1990s, 95, 94, 96, anthropology used to be the option subject. Mathematics has been the option subject many times. In 1997, if you see the result, you'll find that in first 20 ranks, around more than 10 were from the mathematics only, and this happens many times. Public administration was a failed subject for last few years, and during the last year's result, public administration has again come up. It's again showing good results. Political science has been showing good results for last few years. Anthropology after 1990s has started showing very good results for last 3 years. Philosophy used to be a good subject, but it is not showing very good results even in English medium nowadays. For last 5 to 6 years, I have not seen very good results in philosophy, even in psychology. Psychology, which used to be the optional subject for all in around 2010s around, that is not even visible nowadays in the results. Very few candidates you will see getting selected from that subject. So if someone says all the subjects are equal, I would say this is a white lie. This is the biggest lie in the field of UPSC. All the subjects are not equal, but yes, not being equal is not a result of a conspiracy by the UPSC or the government of India. This is due to the complexities of the system that any institution will never be able to achieve a level of 100% objectivity, and that is why some subjects do excel without sufficient reasons and some subjects do fail without sufficient reasons. So in my opinion, and my opinion coming from a very basic understanding, and that is, why are you taking this exam? Why are you appearing in this exam? There can be different reasons, but I think for 99% of all of us, the reason of appearing in this exam should be that you want to be a civil servant, you want to be an IAS officer, or IPS officer or IFS or civil servant. That's it. Maybe in the case of less than 1% candidates, like I belong to that category. When I took this exam, my interest in civil services was not very much. I belong to a state where civil services is not seen as a very good option. At that time, at least, it was not seen as a very good option. Not because that was not a good option, but because people did not know about this exam, about this career generally. So for me, UPSC was an exam because all my batchmates were appearing this exam. So did I. So I also thought I should give this exam. Sorry, I'm not sure. I also qualified this exam in the very first attempt, but I was not made for it. So finally, I resigned from the service. But my approach to this exam was that at least through the process of this exam, I will be able to read a lot of subjects. In general studies, I will read history, geography, science and technology, constitution, a lot of things. That was my primary interest. I will read economics and a lot of things, which otherwise probably I will not be able to read. And then when the question of optional subject was there, I specifically chose two subjects which were not in my background so that I may read something new. I may have some academic satisfaction. That was my primary concern. I meet less than 1% candidates who also have some kind of inclination towards academic satisfaction. And then for them, the choice will be different. But for the 99.9% of you, the reason of choosing a subject is that you want to get into civil services. And in order to get into civil services, you must choose a subject which can give you maximum marks. Very simple choice. A subject which gives you satisfaction but not marks will not help you. You may say that I love to read psychology or philosophy as I love to read these subjects. But if the trend is saying that these subjects are not going to help you, why to be a guinea pig? You are not supposed to have experiments on you. If a lot of students are getting selected with some subject, it means there is a trend. And if the trend has been set, why not to have the benefits of the trend? Why to prove that you can be a new trend setter? And in the process of setting new trends, there is a lot more possibility that you get to the failure. What is the benefit of that? So in my opinion, if you are choosing the optional subject in order to be successful in the civil services exam, and which is the case in the 99.99% of you, in my opinion, the scoreability of a subject should be given the highest points. That should be the first criteria for you. Now, which subject is scoreable or which not, we'll discuss later on. Let us first talk about the parameters. Second parameter, in my opinion, should be your abilities. You cannot be equally good for all the subjects. You have to see yourself also. It's not like I want to choose this or this or this person to be my spouse. They also have a choice. They can also choose or reject you. They also have the choice in the same way. It is not only you who has to decide the subject. The subject also has some requirements to be fulfilled. Whether you fulfill those requirements, do you have the mettle in yourself to do that subject or not? That is also a criteria. For an example, if you are a person with very glaring writing skills, you have been writing so good answers and essays in the school and college, you should definitely choose a subject in which subjectivity matters. Maybe political science, maybe sociology, maybe any literature, maybe public administration, these subjects, maybe history. But if you are a person who does not have very good writing skills, who does not have very good linguistic skills, but who is good in making maps, who is good in making flowcharts, making diagrams, then your choice should be a subject in which maps and diagrams and diagrammatic presentation of the answers works well. Maybe geography, maybe an engineering subject, maybe physics if you have a background for that subject, or engineering for that matter. So second is try to evaluate yourself. You are good for which subjects, that has to be kept in mind while selecting an option subject. Third parameter, in my opinion, is your interest. The subjects you want to study will make the journey very easy. You will not feel tired when you are studying. And this is a very important parameter. And in the interest itself, another parameter is attached to it. If you feel to be enlightened while studying a subject, it means you are enjoying that subject. So the joy, the interest in a subject should also be given primacy. But in my opinion, it should be given priority after these two criteria. This should be the third criteria. The fourth criteria, in my opinion, should be its overlapping ability with the other parts of the syllabus. If an optional subject is somehow helping you in general studies or in essay or in interview, just see how many marks is it helping you and how much of your time it will save, because it is also helping in other parts of the examination process. That should be given the fourth priority in the criteria. Fifth, in my opinion, can be the shortness or briefness of the syllabus. I mean, in how much time it can be covered. If you are able to save 1 month or maybe 2 months in a subject, that means a lot. But the condition is that it should not ruin your few years. So I have seen some people, in order to save 1 month, they have wasted 4 years because they chose a bad subject because it was small. And just in order to save 1 month of the preparation, they lost their 3 to 4 years because that subject was not able to give them very good marks. So don't make so bad choices. If you are willing to save 1 month, it should be the saving of 1 month. It should not be the wasting of 2, 3, 4 years. Then I think in other parameters, there is one thing. Do you have enough study material for that subject? Do you have reasonable guidance of your seniors, maybe of teachers, maybe of some institute if you are willing to study somewhere, or if you are willing to study on your own, do you have enough material in that subject, or on the internet you are able to find the suitable material? That should also be one criteria. And I think if these criteria are being satisfied by a subject, that should be chosen. One more criteria I'm able to remember, that is less the dynamism, better the subject. In some subjects, questions are same, but answers do change every year. Like in political science. See, I'm telling you very frankly, I'm not going to speak in favor or in opposition of any subject effectively. I'll be using the names of many subjects just to explain the realities. Finally, it should be your choice only, and whatever the subject you choose. I'm not going to brainwash you. I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to persuade you for choosing a specific subject in this session. This session is just to give you the idea of my understanding about the selection of subjects. So don't get brainwashed by me. Don't get persuaded by me. Don't get convinced by me. Choose the subject on your own. But yes, you can take some directions from this session, and those directions which you find to be correct should be used by you. So the last point I was referring to was, there are some subjects in which the answers do change every year because they are highly current affairs based. For an example, political science is one such subject in paper 2 of political science, which is based on international relations. Almost everything is so dynamic that your answers have to be updated till yesterday. So for some people, this can be a problem. But yes, because you have to study the current affairs part in GS as well, and that includes international current affairs. So that can be a solace to you that I have to study that in GS as well. In some other subjects, that is the problem. In public administration and sociology, this problem is lesser than political science, but yes, this remains there. But in history, in case of geography in general, in case of any literature subject, in case of philosophy, generally in psychology, you are not supposed to change your answers every year. Once the subject is prepared, it is prepared for once and all. You are not supposed to change the subject. So less the dynamism, more the easiness of the subject for preparation. This is also a criteria which can be mentioned. And the last criteria, some people say we should have the background. I don't much believe in this criteria. But yes, if you have a serious background in a subject, and that subject is good on the basis of other parameters as well, I would say background should be given a good weightage in the selection of subject, but only if it satisfies other criteria as well. Maybe you have a subject in the background which is not good in the UPSC, then I would say instead of wasting some months on that subject or maybe some years on that subject, you should change the subject and choose an easy, brief, interesting, and scoring subject that will help you more. So, Ramit and Pooja, I think the theoretical answer to this question, what should be the criteria of choosing the subject, has been answered. I think it should suffice for the students.
Right, sir. As you mentioned trends and you have presented certain data, our students also want to know that which subjects are very scoring, especially for English medium.
The good thing about the English medium is that the scoring pattern does not vary so much in English medium. When I talk about Hindi medium, the pattern is so different. Then we have to select a subject only out of 2 or 3 choices. In English, the situation is better because in English, all the subjects do have content, do have good teachers maybe, do have good notes, do have good websites to update the notes. So in English, the problem is not to that extent. But yes, if I have to tell you about some scoreable subjects, let me tell you the criteria. Some people take the criteria of the highest marks ever achieved in a subject. This, in my opinion, is a very vague criteria because once in a while, once in a decade, in every subject, someone gets very good marks. That should not be followed blindly. My criteria of scoreability is leave the rare marks, don't count them in your analysis. So if in anthropology we have seen a case of 362 marks, and that is only one case, so that should not be the benchmark. If in Hindi literature we have seen a case of 344 marks, if in mathematics we have seen a case more than 360 marks, because these are the cases which number only one, which are only in one frequency. So they should not be taken very seriously. They should be taken as a reference point, but they should not be taken as a benchmark for your decision. The right way of understanding the scoreability of a subject is maybe from 2013, the mains structure has been changed. The subjects have become of 500 marks. Earlier, they used to be of 600 marks. I have seen even some people who use the references of the people who scored very good marks out of 600 before 2013, and they are using those marks as a reference in the present scenario, which is a lie, which is a big lie. That should not be done. Take the samples from 2013's exam to 2020 exam. 20 result has not finally been declared, so 19 exam finally. So these 7 years, 13 to 19, should be taken as a sample. And if you find more than 300 marks in 10 cases in any subject, I mean, if 10 candidates have got more than 300 marks out of 500 marks in these 7 years collectively, cumulatively, I think the subject is good in that manner. This is a general way of understanding how a subject is scoreable or not. And then, if you take out the average of those who scored more than 300 marks, that can be a general achievable score in case you are a very serious and a student with a good writing abilities. So what I am referring to is the score which a good, serious, and a person with good writing abilities will generally score in UPSC. That should be the scoring pattern which we are claiming. And if I have to tell on the basis of that, I can name few subjects. In my opinion, the best scoreable subjects right now. This is very much dependent on the trends. I'm talking about the recent trends. I'm talking about the past 2-3 years, maybe 4 years. One very good subject is mathematics, but that is not open to all. That is for very rare people. And whenever you take a subject, you try to be best in that subject. Mathematics 360 will be scored by only those who are best amongst those who have taken mathematics as the optional subject. It's not achievable by everyone. Okay. So the subjects in which more than 360 score has been seen in recent years, there are only two: mathematics and anthropology. Maybe there are some other subjects which I do not know, but I have seen at least hundreds of mark sheets before I am speaking in front of you. But there is a possibility. I am putting a disclaimer that there can be some mistake on my level, that I was not able to see some other mark sheet which was not accessible to me, to the extent of my knowledge. And my knowledge is generally based on a huge database. So 360 plus anthropology and mathematics I have seen. If we take the benchmark of 340 plus, I have seen, other than these two subjects, Hindi literature in one case, and maybe some other subject I'm not very much able to remember. If I take the benchmark of 330 plus, I will find geography in it. I will find sociology. I will find political science. I will find public administration as well. Public administration has surprisingly touched new heights in the recent 1 or 1.5 years. Otherwise, for last 4 or 5 years, it was not working well. But in the last year, it has performed very well. So in the last year, I have seen someone scoring more than 330 marks in public administration as well. If we come little lower, maybe around 300, then you can also find history. You can also find the engineering subjects. I have seen engineering subjects around 310, 315, 320. Some subjects I have seen there. And even the law I have seen around 310 plus. In philosophy also, I have seen one person marks to be more than 300. In psychology, again, almost the same cases there. But these are the highest marks, and I'm not willing you to base your research on the highest marks. So if I have to tell the average good score in one subject, I mean, the score you can try to achieve without the help of luck, without the help of luck factor. Because when you achieve 360 marks, it's not only you who is achieving, it's a lot of factors working for you. Like what I said, if you are really willing to have something, all the universe conspires to do everything for you. In that phenomena, you get so many marks. Otherwise, in my opinion, the subjects which can give you around 330 marks, around 330, and that is the highest level. They are mathematics, anthropology, any literature, sociology, public administration, geography, and pub ed. In my opinion, these are the main subjects. Just after them comes history and law and maybe management, maybe commerce and accountancy, these subjects. This is based on the general score pattern which I have been able to see through the database I have. Is that sufficient, Pooja?
Sir, yes, sir. So next question that we have is that should high or low competition on that subject be a criteria? For example, not a lot of students might pick up a subject, so should we go for that?
I don't think that makes a difference, because if in a subject there are only 100 candidates, and if in another subject there are 1,000 candidates, it doesn't make much difference. To the best of my knowledge, in UPSC, around 90 to 100 answer sheets are given to one examiner. So if the subject has only 100 copies, so maybe they will be given to one examiner. And in the case of one examiner, it's a huge chance factor. If that individual is very liberal, everyone will score very high. And if that person is very miser and he is not willing to give marks, then all of the candidates in a subject will lose. So it doesn't make much difference. But whatever the subject you choose, you have to be one of the best in that subject. And again, your subject has to be one of the best subjects out of the subjects, because it's not an intra-subject competition. Finally, it's an inter-subject competition. And there is no reservation for any subject. It's not like if we have, it's not like a percentage-based exam. I mean, if 15,000 candidates were there in the main exam and 1,500 have been finally selected, it is not like that 10% of all the subjects will be selected. There is no reservation of any subject. So there is a possibility that in one subject, maybe more than 20% get selected. In one subject, maybe less than 2% get selected. So both the criteria are very much important. You have to be the best in your subject, and your subject has to be the best in the subjects in themselves. It's over, Rabit. Yes, Pooja.
Ranjan from Uttar Pradesh asks that he wishes to complete the whole of GS syllabus once, and then he will choose the optional. Is this the right strategy?
Yes, this is the right strategy. I mean, that is one of the right strategies. Strategy should be made ultimately only by you, by no one else. There are two kinds of people. One, those who have pipeline processing in thinking patterns, like I have. There are some people who have the parallel processing kind of thing, which many people have. The people with parallel processing are easily able to manage 2 or 3 things at a stretch in one go. Maybe they will study the optional subject for 4 hours in a day. They will study the GS for 3 hours in a day. They will prepare for the essay maybe half an hour. They will write an answer every day for half an hour. They will do current affairs maybe 1 to 2 hours every day. So this is a parallel processing kind of thing. A person is able to manage a lot of things parallelly. There are some people with this nature. There are some people who are more inclined towards doing one thing at one time. If I am studying general studies, one segment, I will complete it. Until the time I'm not able to complete it, I will not get any satisfaction. I'll be under stress because I have not been able to find a satisfaction of completion of something. So that depends on your nature. If you are a person who wants to do one thing at one time, you can start with the general studies, and after completion of general studies, you can come to the optional subject, provided you have sufficient time. But in any case, you should complete your optional subject before you are entering in this exam. I mean, before you are taking the prelims exam. The ideal condition is that your main optional subject is not only covered, but you also have practiced answer writing in that subject. If that is not possible for some reason, at least 50% of the preparation of the optional subject should be completed before you are going for the prelims exam. That is the only criteria. Otherwise, it's on you whether to start with GS or with optional subject. If you are having the same optional subject but you had in your graduation and post-graduation and you studied well at that time, you may have the different approach also. You may give 1 to 2 months to just complete that subject so that you have a satisfaction that you have done your optional subject. Then you can start GS. So in my opinion, all the approaches are perfectly good. To start GS, then going to optional, to start with optional if that is the background subject, then going to GS. Or if you have the ability of doing the things parallelly, you can do the GS as well as the optional subject simultaneously. But in all the 3 cases, the bottom line is that 100% or at least 50% of the preparation of the optional subject should be completed before you are taking your prelims exam for the first time. Fine. Next question, yes.
So next question is that should how objective the subject is be given preference over, say, the overlap the subject has while preparing for GS or essay?
Objectivity means the nature of the subject has to be very scientific, very straightforward. Maybe like maths, physics, engineering subjects, they are very objective in nature. Geography is in the middle of the subjects. It is not as objective as the science subjects. It is not as subjective as the humanities subjects. And that is why in geography, you will find some universities offer BSc Geography and some do offer BA Geography, because that is somewhere in between science and humanities. And the subjects like political science, sociology, anthropology, literature, they have huge subjectivity. Subjectivity in the sense, what is the answer? If the answer to a question is very fixed, then the subject is termed to be an objective subject. And if there is a huge possibility of writing a different answer to the same question by different candidates, being all the answers good, being all the answers effective, it means the subject is subjective. I would not say that objective subjects do have higher marking. I would also not say that subjective subjects have good marking patterns. Both have the chances. Like I have seen more than 360 marks in mathematics and anthropology, and they're on two extremes. One is highly objective, one is highly subjective. So the people with good understanding of humanities and having good writing skills should definitely go for the subjective subjects. Maybe political science, public administration, sociology, history, like these subjects. And people who do not have the access to subjective thinking, who do not have access to creative thinking and very good writing skills, very good linguistic skills, in my opinion, they should either choose the engineering or science subjects, or geography should be the best option subject for them, because in geography, at least in paper 1, you can manage a lot of the questions with the help of maps and diagrams and flowcharts, and your weakness of the writing abilities will not be manifesting or expressed in your answer sheet. So objectivity or subjectivity, that depends upon your abilities. That is not an absolute criteria. That is a relative criteria relative to your skills, relative to your abilities.
So the next question is from Anishk Sharma. He belongs to Madhya Pradesh. And he asks that how much time should be devoted to study an optional subject?
And now this question has two meanings. One, in totality, how much time? And second, maybe he or she is willing, Kanishk is willing to ask me how much time of a day is to be devoted to the optional subject.
Of a day, sir.
Of a day. See, I'll answer both the questions in one go. In any optional subject, if you are studying properly, there are some subjects which have less length and width, but they have more depth, like philosophy. Philosophy is said to be a very small subject. I have been a teacher of philosophy for 7 to 8 years, so I'm telling you on the basis of my first-hand experience. There are some subjects which are very lengthy, but which do not require that high level of depth. Like if we talk about history and philosophy, the syllabus of history is too vast and the syllabus of philosophy is very small. But this is a judgment based on the length and width. We are not taking into account the depth. If we also take into account the depth, then you will find that the difference of the time you need to study a subject properly will not be very much. It will be very close to each other. In my opinion, for preparing any subject, and the preparation means from understanding every topic to practicing all the questions asked in the previous examinations and be prepared to answer any mock test. I am talking about that total preparation. For the preparation of optional subject in totality, to this extent, I believe you need to have around, maybe if we break up, 120 classes of 2.5 hours in any subject are generally supposed to be an amount, a satisfactory amount. So 300 hours is the general amount of classes if you are going to study through classes. If a teacher is teaching you in 300 hours, and this is only the completion of the subject, I'm not including the practice of all the questions asked in previous years in this 300 hours. If you at that time, the teacher will need maybe 100 more hours to complete all that practice. So 400 hours. And then your revision, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe thrice, and then your answer writing practices. In totality, I believe if you want to do something excellent in an optional subject, you need to have around 700 to 1000 hours of preparation, which includes basic understanding, maybe in the classes, maybe without the classes, which includes practicing of previous questions, which include practicing of mock papers, which include revision 2-3 times and making short notes, and finally going to the examination hall with a sense of completion, with a sense of confidence. Around 700 to 1000 hours should be the ideal time. Now, if you are studying the optional subject and you are not doing anything else, and if you are able to study around 10 hours a day, I believe 100 days should be sufficient for all the process. Maybe in the smaller subjects, it will be 90 days. Maybe in the bigger subjects, it will be around 120 days. So it's not more than the difference of one complete month. If you are putting all your time into optional subject, the difference between a small subject and a big subject will not ultimately be the difference of more than 1 month if you are putting all the efforts in the optional subject. But if you are a person who does not want to do one thing at one time and want to study GS as well as essay as well as optional subject, and if you are spending 3 to 4 hours a day in the optional subject, then you need to have 250 days, maybe 200 days to complete the subject. So keep in mind that 700 to 1000 hours, it will also depend upon the background you have. It will also depend upon the fact that your subject has something to do with the GS or not. A lot of factors. So minimum maybe 700 hours, maximum maybe 1000 hours, and divide these hours into your daily schedule, and you can know how much time you need to have to complete the subject. In my opinion, subjective opinion, better to spend 2 to 3 complete months for the optional subject when you are preparing for it, and then daily 1 hour of revision and answer writing is a good proposition. But if you have already started preparing GS and so far you have not been able to complete GS, then I would not say that you should wait till the completion of GS. In that situation, you can start with 4 to 5 hours a day for the optional subject, and you can complete the option maybe in 6 months gradually. Pooja, I think this is the complete answer. Yes. Yes, Amit.
The next question we have from Deepak Nagar. He is from Uttar Pradesh and he has a grievance with the Macaulay education policy and he wants to inquire about a literature subject.
Okay, so he's coming. Okay. Yes, Deepak, how can I help?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I'm a technical graduate.
Okay.
And initially, I am also opting for my state PCS examination.
Okay.
Initially, I was thinking about geography and mathematics as my optional. But after watching your video on YouTube that was concerning the Hindi medium students, that literature subjects are higher scoring compared to the other subjects. So I also have a founding for Hindi and I wanted to opt for Hindi literature. Would it be beneficial for me as an English medium student to opt for a Hindi literature as my optional subject, as Macaulay has, as I have followed the Macaulay's education system, and I am neither proficient in English, neither I am in Hindi. So that's my question to you, sir.
So that is a problem with Lord Macaulay, not with you. So
that's with me, sir.
he is responsible for all these blunders. Okay. So your medium will be English otherwise.
Yes, sir. My medium would be English, sir.
Okay. So your question precisely is whether should you choose for, you have to also consider the UPPCS for your case and also the UPSC. In UPSC, it makes much difference that which option you have chosen, but in PCS exams, including the UP, they have a scaling process. And once they have a scaling process, at least in principle, they have a parity in all the subjects. They have an equality in all the subjects. But to my surprise, that parity or equality is not easily visible in the results. That is in the process. I know. I have many times inquired with the PCS authorities, and they have in the court also, in the Supreme Court also, they have discussed the formula they are using, the statistical formula they are using for the scaling. And at least on seeing the formula, it gives a confidence that the parity in all the subjects will be achieved. So going by that formula, I would say in the UPPCS, you can choose any optional subject because ultimately they have a formula which scales the subjects. Practically speaking, maybe due to other reasons, maybe due to the availability of resources, maybe due to the availability of good guidance or teachers or something else, the trends are visible there as well. So geography is a very good subject in UPPCS in English medium. Mathematics is also fine, not as glaring as in UPSC. Hindi literature is also a very good subject in UPPCS. As per the latest results we have seen in this examination in UPPCS, geography and Hindi literature have done the wonderful results if I have to choose two subjects there. In UPSC, Hindi literature vis-a-vis geography and English medium are almost equal. And mathematics, if you are very good in mathematics, then even that is almost equal or maybe having little edge. So you have to decide in which subject you are the best person. By chance, all the three choices you have given to me are good in UPSC as well as in PCS. So I would say you should choose according to your proficiency. If you are choosing geography, English should be good. If you are choosing Hindi literature, your Hindi should be not only good, it should be relatively very good. Because in geography, you can manage with the maps and diagrams to some extent. So your linguistic weakness can be hidden, can be kept hidden there. But when you are choosing a literature subject, you have to have at least a good level of language so that your grammatical or vocabulary mistakes do not irritate the examiner. So you compare in your English and in your Hindi. And if you want my help, I can also do that. You write maybe one case study of physics or maybe an essay of 2 pages in Hindi as well as in English on the same topic. Send to our team, someone from the team or myself. I'll be able to tell you at least which medium should be good for you. Okay. If your Hindi is better than your English, then Hindi literature can be a good choice. If your English is better than your Hindi, then geography would make the better choice. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
The next question is from Punjab, Simran Singh from Punjab, and he wishes to know about portability of Punjabi literature as per her interest.
Literature subjects, any literature subject is highly scoreable in UPSC. And the reasons are very strange for that. And this is not the recent trend. This has been a trend forever. I mean, for last 20 years, I have been seeing, and this trend is always there in UPSC, be it Hindi literature, be it Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, maybe Punjabi, maybe Sindhi literature. In all the languages, I have seen this trend. Exceptions are there. Like in Gujarati literature, in recent 2 to 4 years, I have seen that the results are not very good. We used to believe that as the Prime Minister is from Gujarat and the Home Minister is also from Gujarat and all the higher authorities are coming from Gujarat. So there was a belief that Gujarati literature is going to rock. But on the contrary, the Gujarati literature has not performed well during last 4 to 5 years. I don't know the reason behind that, but that has been seen recently. Otherwise, in general, any literature subject is a very good choice in UPSC. And the reason, which is very strange, is whenever you write in the literature subjects, your copies are evaluated by the people of that subject only, of that language only. And as it is believed that in all the regional literatures, the sense of helping the candidates of that language in UPSC prevails. And maybe that is the reason the marks in the literature subjects are given little more. Secondly, literature is a very subjective subject in the sense there are no fixed answers in literature. I mean, at least in paper 2, it is we have a huge scope of diversity in the answers, huge scope of creativity, huge scope of even you can make guesses in that. In mathematics, if you do not know a question, you do not know that question. In literature, even if you do not know a question, you can write at least something and you can even score maybe 40-50% marks in that very answer, which you did not know well. So maybe that subjectivity gives an edge in the cases when you are not able to answer a question, but you can make some guesses and they pay. Whereas in the objective subjects, the ability of guessing the answer when you do not know cognitively, that is less or maybe not available. That may be a reason. But whatever the reason, the trends are generally in the favor of literature subjects and they have been doing wonderful. Even in the UPSC results in the last 10 years, I think at least 2 times the toppers have been from the regional literatures of their languages. So Punjabi literature is a very good subject. But the only thing is in regional languages, sometimes you don't get the proper guidance of the literature subjects. If you have that accessibility, then without any doubts, the subject is going to pay you a lot. You should go for that.
So you just mentioned in your answer about evaluation of literature papers. So Sneh Satyam from Jharkhand had a question that what are the expectations of an examiner who is evaluating literature subject? And should the answers in a literature exam be more descriptive and elaborative or visual with flowcharts?
This is a question not unique to literature subjects, so I will take this question in broad sense, which means what is the criteria of scoring good in any subject and what kind of answers do the examiners expect from the candidates. I was referring to the same example which I'm quoting in front of you in a different webinar, in an in-house webinar of a batch in our institution 3 days back. I remember 2 toppers of UPSC 4 to 5 years back. 2 toppers in the consecutive 2 years, first rankers. Both were asked a very simple question. And the question was, do you think we should write in the paragraphs or should we use the flowcharts and maps and diagrams? What is the method of scoring good marks, better marks in UPSC? GS and options both. And if you come to know their answer from the one topper was, I made flowcharts and diagrams and maps in almost all the questions. I never wrote in paragraphs. And this candidate was the IAS topper and also had very good score in the GS. In the very next year, the person who topped was asked this question again. And the answer was, I didn't make a flowchart or a map or a diagram in any answer of the GS. I wrote all the answers in paragraphs, never in points, never in headings. And this person was also a topper. So in UPSC, there is no certain trends in this sense. You can use paragraphs, you can use maybe highlighting features, maps or diagrams or bullet points or headings or flowcharts and everything of that sort. In my opinion, if the question is objective in nature or descriptive in nature, descriptive means it wants you to describe few things. It wants to you list some points. Or if it can be properly represented in the form of a map or a flowchart or a diagram. Like if you have to compare two states in the sex ratio and in the other demographic trends, a table will definitely tell a lot more than a paragraph. But when there is an analytical question which wants you to analyze something into deep sense, then giving flowcharts and points and headings does not make sense. It makes the answer very shallow and superficial. The depth of the answer gets missing. So, in any paper, maybe the GS, maybe the optional subject, maybe Hindi literature, maybe any other subject, if the nature of question is objective or descriptive, or the answer can be easily and effectively represented through diagrams, we should use them in a reasonable manner. We should not overload our answers with those things. And if the question is highly analytical, then we should not use the points or headings. Like if the question is, had Mahatma Gandhi not died in 1948, what do you think would have been the nature of Indian Constitution? Now, in this question, you are not supposed to write through flowcharts or maps or diagrams. It will take away the depth of the question. But if the question is, what were the major differences between Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Ambedkar? Now, this is a question which needs a list. You can make a list, you can make a table. The point of difference, Mahatma Gandhi's stand, Dr. Ambedkar's stand. That can be given in a table. Or maybe 5 or 6 headings, and in each heading, the point of view given by Mahatma Gandhi as well as the point of view given by Dr. Ambedkar. So every question has a nature. And if someone asks, in Indian Constitution, what are the features which are very much close to federalism? Now, this is a list-making question. You can make the list of the constitutional articles. So decide the approach of writing the answer as per the nature of the question, and there cannot be any absolute answer to this question.
So we have a Shalini Prabhat Tiwari with us, and she's from UP, and she's a primary school teacher as well as a mother. She's facing certain issues with regard to choosing an optional subject. Shalini, please ask your question.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Shalini.
Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure talking to you. Actually, I am confused in regard to choose my optional subject, and I have done my master's in commerce, MCom, BCom I have done, and my 3 shortlisted subjects are economics, management, and anthropology. But I am confused to choose which, and my criteria for choosing the subject is overlapping with general studies and short syllabus, because as ma'am said, I'm a teacher, I'm a working professional, and I'm a mother of a daughter, 3-year daughter. So it's very tough for me to study for 8 to 12 hours, as you said, to study. So how to choose, what to choose?
If you have done BCom and MCom, so you are not having accountancy and commerce in your list of subjects?
No, sir, because I don't have very good command in accountancy. And
okay. And you have studied management in your MCom?
Yes, sir.
In that case, because you are a working woman as well as a mother, and you will be having very less time for preparation, in my opinion, management would be the best choice in your case, because it doesn't need very much time, and the competition in management is little less. As soon as you choose economics, the competition is very tough in economics. And in anthropology, it's a totally new subject for you, and you will need at least 4 complete months if you put around 8 to 10 hours a day. And because you don't have that much time, it will take a lot of time. Management has 2 benefits. One, you have already gone through the subject. Secondly, in management, many of the questions can be answered even with the help of common sense if you do not have access to them. So generally, management does not have very high trends. I mean, we don't have much samples in management, so I cannot even say that it's not performing good. And I cannot even say that it's performing weakly. But I believe you should give it a chance and try for the management.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, sir. One more question, sir.
Yeah. Please.
Sir, how to organize the timetable for the different subject, as we have many subjects to study? So how to organize the subject, which to start first and which to start later?
Okay, as far as the starting is concerned, it should be from the very easy segment. If a segment of general studies is from your background, like in your case, economics can be the starting point. But otherwise, we generally believe that polity or history should be the starting point, because polity is interesting as well as easy. History is interesting for many, maybe for some it's not interesting, but history is not a difficult subject. Then we can go to geography and raising the level gradually. Science students can even start with science just to have some confidence. In your case, economy, then polity, history, geography, that should be the flow of studying.
Thank you so much, sir.
Most welcome.
Sir, our next question is by Abhishek from Jharkhand. He wants to know that whether choosing a humanities-based optional subject is more beneficial in GS preparation, and to how much extent or percentage will it be helpful?
I think this question has been answered indirectly. You can choose a humanities subject if it gives you weightage in GS, it overlaps with the GS. That is one of the way of preparing for this exam. That is not the only way. I have seen people choosing anthropology, which does not help in GS. I mean, which does not effectively help in GS. Maybe some parts of society and justice are to some extent covered by anthropology, but they have topped with anthropology as the optional subject. And I have also seen people having the subjects like geography and history and sociology or political science, which have a huge role to play in general studies. They also get into civil services with top ranks. So that is your choice. I don't think there is an absolute answer possible to this question.
But the next question is from Rahul Ranjan.
From Raghupati, you are less audible, Pooja.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yes. No, it's fine.
Sorry. Sir, it's from Rahul Ranjan, and he asks that how important is it to study in graduation with respect to GS syllabus for UPSC?
His question is, should we start preparing for GS during the graduation? Is that the question?
No, sir. The importance of studying in graduation with respect to GS syllabus.
If you have studied some subjects of GS in graduation, and if you have studied properly, maybe if you had history and geography and political science in your graduation and you studied well, it will help you. But even if you have not done that, maybe you had BSc and that doesn't help much in the general studies, it doesn't make much difference. Total GS syllabus can be covered in 1 year. In English medium, generally the trend is of 10 to 12 months only, and that can be done if you are a full-time, whole-timer student. So if you studied history well in the graduation, it will save maybe 2 months. If you couldn't, so don't worry for that. You can spend 2 more months to cover it. But in any way, if you have studied well in graduation, it will save few months of your preparation. And if you have not been able to study those subjects in your graduation, or you were not a serious student at that time, that doesn't make much difference. Now, if you are serious in studying those subjects, it makes much difference, not your background.
Sir, next we are joined by Meenakshi Saraf. She's from Madhya Pradesh. So she's a first-year graduate student, and she's facing a difficult time choosing her optional because she feels that she doesn't have a strong command in any of the subjects that she's studying at present. Meenakshi, please ask your question.
Meenakshi, you are in first year of graduation.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. You have switched off your camera. Yeah.
No, sir, it's on. Okay. Sir, my question is that I'm a first year student.
Okay.
And also, as you have said that there is a factor which is background. And till now I have been a science student, and while pursuing my graduation, I have opted for Bachelor of Arts. So in that I have my subjects history, geography, and economics. But due to coronavirus pandemic, our colleges are closed and we don't have proper guidance. So which optional should I choose? Because I have no examination to judge myself that whether I will be able to cope up with any subject or not.
And actually, your question is which option you should choose, and my answer is why should you choose the optional right now? You should not.
Okay.
You should just enjoy studying general studies right now. And because you have 3 very beautiful subjects in your curriculum, once you have covered history and geography and economics, then you have covered at least 50% of the GS syllabus. At least you have a good background. And optional subjects should be chosen 1 year before your examination. So you'll be appearing, I think, in 2024 or 25, not before that. So if it is 24 attempts, so better to choose the optional subject in 23 due to certain reasons. One reason is the trend at that time should be the best ground to take a decision, not the present trend. Secondly, there is a possibility that after having read all the parts of GS, you may have interest in some parts more than the other parts. So that interest will also give you some guidance for choosing the right subject. So in my opinion, the students who are studying in the first year of graduation or maybe second year, or maybe are in school, they should focus on the general studies if they are trying to study for UPSC right now. And the optional subject decision should be taken in the end after completing the general studies, not now.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, most welcome.
Yes, sir.
The next question is that should NCERTs be given preference, and should NCERTs be studied for optional subjects, or they can be tackled with regular high standard books?
You have both the choices. If you have history or geography in your optional subject, you can read the books of NCERT. They will help you to some extent. They will help you in 2 manners. First, they will clarify the basic concepts. Sometimes you are able to read in the higher level books everything, but the very basic concepts are not given there. So basic concepts you can cover with the help of NCERT. Secondly, NCERTs do one more thing, at least the older NCERTs used to do this thing. They were so precise that you can understand from them how to write a good answer in 200 words, how to write in 250 words. So in UPSC, the biggest challenge in the optional subjects is that you have to write in 250 words or 200 or 125 words the answer which you can write in maybe 600 words. So how to make the answer brief? This is the main challenge, and this challenge can be solved with the help of NCERT, older NCERTs rather, because they were very brief writings on different subjects, so that helps. But if you have like Hindi literature, the NCERTs do not cover the syllabus or do not effectively help you in the syllabus, but for the basic concepts you can go through. In philosophy, in anthropology, I believe there are no NCERTs. In sociology, you have NCERTs. Political science, you have NCERTs, and they can help you in the making of basic concepts. So if you have studied NCERTs or if you are starting with NCERTs, it is fine. But supposedly, if you didn't study NCERTs and you are happy with your preparation of a subject, you are not supposed to go back again and to study NCERTs. That is not a basic requirement. That is a choice, actually.
So our next question is from students who are preparing from engineering background, and 2 specific questions from Devesh Shukla and Gaurav Kamekar. Both of them are from Maharashtra, and they ask how has been the performance of engineering subjects in the recent years, and according to you, which optional subject should an engineer choose if they don't want to study the optional subject of their field?
So two questions are there. First of all, what is the general performance of engineering subjects? They are neither good nor bad. They are on average side. And average means, to the best of my understanding, engineers who are very good in their subjects are scoring around 310, 315, 320. So this is not on the highest level, and it's not also bad. So if you are very good in your engineering subject and your subject is directly available in UPSC options, like in case of civil engineering, you have a choice. In case of electrical or electronics, you have to study electrical plus electronics in UPSC. That makes it difficult. In case of chemical or computer engineering, you don't have a choice in UPSC. So if you have the choice of the exact syllabus you have studied in the graduation, in the engineering graduation, you can go for it. But you should keep in mind that your highest scoreability will be somewhere around 310, 315, 320 in normal conditions. And if you are able to save few months because of this decision, you can put those months in GS and SA so that you can cover those 10 to 15 marks in those areas. But if you have not been a very good student of engineering and you will be spending 4 to 6 months in engineering subject as well, then I would say it doesn't make much sense to go for that subject. In that case, you should choose a subject which helps you in GS, because that way your preparation will be having two benefits in one go, and you will also have better score in that subject. Now, the second part of the question is, which subject should the engineers choose if they are not willing to choose their background subject? See, engineers are, again, it's not one category. They also have various subcategories. I have seen some engineers who are very good in writing humanities subjects. Like, I have been a teacher of Hindi literature and of philosophy. In Hindi literature, it is very surprising for me that the highest marks scored by one of my students, who is now an IAS officer, the marks were 344. His name was Pradeep Dwivedi, and he was an electrical engineer, and he was from English medium. So a candidate who is an engineer and was from English medium background scored the highest marks so far in Hindi literature. So I would not make an absolute statement about the engineers. Engineers do have a variety in their capabilities in themselves. So engineers with having good writing abilities in subjects of humanities, I think they can choose any humanities subject, maybe political science, maybe sociology, maybe anything else. But if an engineer is neither good in the engineering subject or not interested in choosing that, nor he or she is good in linguistic skills, in that situation, I think geography is the most suitable option subject for them. If not geography, anthropology, because some parts of anthropology are very close to science, like the physical anthropology, which talks about the development of human being in physical sense. Like we talk about Neanderthal, we talk about Australopithecus and Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens sapiens. What were the physical developments in these stages of human evolution? This is called physical anthropology. And the part of physical anthropology is more objective in its nature. So engineers not having good skills in writing should opt geography or anthropology, in my opinion. And all the opinions I am giving are very subjective opinions. So you have to take the decision as per your wisdom. This is only an advice from my side. Next question we can go to. Yes.
Sir, Ravindra from Uttar Pradesh asks how to relate current affairs with optional subjects.
See, not all the optional subjects do require the updation of current affairs. Like if we talk about any literature subject, you are almost not required to update. But yes, you can do to little extent. Like if you are writing an answer about language policy in Hindi or English literature, maybe in Telugu literature, maybe in Punjabi literature, you can talk about the recent educational policy, which talks about the linguistic studies studied in the mother language. Maybe you can talk about the language movements which are happening or which were happening in the recent past. So in any subject, there is some scope of current affairs. Like in history, you can mention while writing about the Indus Valley civilization, about the new findings in the recent times. And if you find a new excavation through which you come to know that in India there was a civilization even prior to the Indus Valley civilization, so your answer will get modified accordingly. You will say Indus Valley civilization so far is treated as the oldest civilization of India, but recently, on the basis of some new researches, there is a possibility that in future we will be treating this civilization as the second oldest civilization in history. So this kind of connection with current affairs can even exist in history. But if you are having sociology, you need to study the latest journals. In anthropology, paper 2 as well. In geography, maybe in human geography, maybe in economic geography, you have to study the latest journals or the articles from the Hindu or from the Indian Express or from good websites throughout the world. You can have good articles. If you are from law, you have to study all the legal changes, all the new acts and everything. If you are from political science, you have to study all the IR-based things from good newspapers or from the journals. So better to follow maybe one good journal from the subject you have and one or two good newspapers, good articles from the newspapers which relate to your subject. And if you are able to quote recent reports and recent surveys, like if you are quoting the HDI report or some other reports or some other indexes or the in PubMed maybe the second ARC recommendations if you are quoting good sources make the answer authentic and it helps scoring very good marks. And I would suggest you when you study current affairs, do note down the recent researches, recent books, recent articles, recent indexes, recent reports, and very unique results or conclusions of any report for that matter. And you can use these unique facts in essay, in optional subjects, or in GS. And by making your answer authentic, they help you scoring very well in the UPSC. UPSC gives weightage to the authentic answers, and authenticity comes from the quoting of the sources. And the recent sources do play a vital role in making the answers authentic.
Sir, our next question is that whether it is possible to prepare for optional subjects without formal guidance or coaching. Can they be prepared with self-study?
Yes, they can be prepared with the self-study. Anything in this world can be done by the self-preparation. So if you are studying your optional subject without any guidance or without any coaching, I would suggest you a few things. First of all, find out which is the best institute for that subject, and you can find the notes of the institute in the open market. Just take the notes from some shop, maybe the notes of the classroom student who has written in the classes. Those notes can help you a lot. Secondly, in all the subjects, there are some good institutes who are giving test series, mock test series. Don't join that if you have some financial or other reasons. You can find out the test papers in the open market on the bookshops. You purchase the test papers and then try writing those answers. If possible, do find at least one person who can check your answers, at least in a little quantity. Sometimes we make blunders in answer writing. And even if a good student, maybe senior to you, is able to guide you the basics of answer writing, I believe you can manage without any coaching institute or without taking any proper or formal guidance from someone. It is manageable. The only difference that a coaching institute or a good teacher makes is he or she saves your time. maybe you will be able to prepare in 6 months, and maybe the help of that individual or that institute, you will be able to prepare in 3 to 4 months. That is the main difference that an institute plays. But yes, if you have some constraints, you should do it on your own. And that is doable. That is perfectly doable, not at all a problem.
So the next question is from Uttar Pradesh by Akshay. He asks that if law is a good optional subject for law graduates, and if not, which subject he should choose.
Law is like engineering subject. It's not very good, it's not bad. On the basis of because the samples are very few in law. So on the basis of the samples, I know the scorability of law is generally very close to engineering subjects, around 310, 315, 320, around there. So if you are a good student of law and you have prepared almost the syllabus, I would say you should go with law. And you should save the time and invest your time in general studies so that you get 10, 15 more marks in general studies, and that it will make your losses managed. But if you are not a very good candidate in law, or if you are not willing to pursue law in UPSC, with the background of law, the best optional subject would be political science, because you have jurisprudence, which helps in political science thinkers, and you have Constitution, which helps in paper 1, part 2 of political science, that is Indian government and politics. So the nearest subject of law is either, political science is the nearest option. Otherwise, you can think about management, but that will not help much. Political science would be the best choice for the students of law who are not willing to take law as the optional subject.
So our next question is from a teacher who teaches English literature. She is Jansi Rani from Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
And she wants to know whether picking English literature is a good option or not, because there is not much formal guidance available again.
Yeah, in English literature, you do not have the availability of guidance. That is true. And that is why the sample size is very less. I don't even know more than 2-3 people so far who have been selected for English literature, but I know at least 1 or 2 of them. And to the best of my experience, if you are very good in English literature, in itself, English literature is a good subject, like any literature. So you have to judge about yourself. I know one candidate who scored more than 360 marks in English literature when it used to be of 600 marks. So 60% marks is a very good score. Nowadays, it comes to around 300 plus. So English literature can be a good choice, provided you are very good in English literature. And you won't get guidance in English literature easily.
So this is one of the last questions, and Gaurav Acharji from Assam asks about the scope of commerce and management as an optional subject in the mains exam.
Commerce and accountancy is one subject, and management is other subject. Commerce and accountancy in English medium is a good subject, but only for those who have completed their chartered accountancy or their CAs, or they are having the knowledge and wisdom just as equivalent to the CA level studies. For them, commerce and accountancy is a good subject, and I think they can score around 320, 325 marks if they are very good and if they have put enough time. For management, we do not have much data, but from the very few data which is available, I think management is again neither very good nor it's bad. It's around 310, 35, 315 range. So can be taken if you are good if you have done MBA, or if you have done something equivalent to MBA and you have a very good command in management, you can do. But those who are taking management or commerce accountancy as a new subject, I think that will be a blunder. These subjects should be taken only by those who have a good command in their background of these subjects, not by a new person.
Sir, this is one of the last question of the day today.
Good.
And that all other optional questions have been answered. This is a question from Shubham Kumar from Delhi. And I think this is the right question to end with. He asks that after selecting your optional, how should one efficiently and effectively prepare for that subject?
See, optional subject is the key to success in civil services exam. This is my understanding of this exam. In GS, you are not able to make much difference. In essay, you can, in interview, you can, and in the optional subject, you can make the differences. You can even have a lead of maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 marks in the optional subject if the choice is good and the hard work you have put in the right direction. In my opinion, the optional subject should be done in a specific manner. First of all, you should not be very choosy while studying the syllabus. Almost 90% syllabus of the subject has to be done. Maybe you can leave some topics without studying properly. You can have just an idea of the subject. Because in the present scenario, you don't get choices in optional subject. Even if you have to attempt 5 out of 8 questions, in every question you have 2 to 3 parts, and those subparts are not coming from the same areas of the paper. They are coming from different areas. So practically, those who have studied selectively are very much prone to risk in optional subject nowadays. So first of all, prepare almost all the parts of syllabus. Don't leave. Maybe you can leave 1 or 2 very rare topics, but not more. Secondly, preparation for the optional subject is completed only when you have practiced all the previous questions and answers, because in optional subjects, it is very much likely that the questions get repeated through different years. So if you are able to write good in the previous year questions, it means you are perfectly well. It is also possible to guess the questions. I mean, if you have prepared around 500 questions in one optional subject, with the points, if you have jotted down 3-4 points for every question in the for all the previous year questions and the mock test questions, I believe you can get at least 450 marks out of 500 marks question paper from your prepared list. And if that is done, then you are going to score very well. Try to make your answers good in presentation, maybe with the help of some charts, with the help of some maps, some tables, good paragraphs. And I believe if all these things are taken care of, you can score very well in the optional subject. And in my opinion, the amount of time you spend for the optional subject should be around equal to the amount you are spending for the GS, because ultimately the optional will be more crucial in your success than your GS.
Thank you so much, sir. And as we reach the conclusion of today's webinar, I think we have answered all of the queries and all of the facets related with the optional subject. Thank you so much, sir. And I would also like to thank Ramit ma'am for such smooth conduct of this entire webinar.
And I would like to thank the team who has been working behind this webinar success, and all the participants who have listened to us. And I believe most of the doubts they must have been cleared. And in case you have some more doubts, do write to us on the email ID through which you have been given the link. We will try to address your doubts, maybe through personal interactions or maybe through one more webinar on the same topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.